Alright guys, I think you're really gonna like today's topic. We're talking about how to tell people what you do. I think this is the number one thing that people struggle with when it comes to communicating for their work or their business. No matter if you're an entrepreneur or, quite frankly, if you have a job, I think this can be really hard to have a really impressive way of telling people what you do. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do in this video right now. Especially in the offline world, I've been going to a lot of networking events and social gatherings for professionals and entrepreneurs lately, and I've found that it's a struggle for me to communicate what I do to people who don't know the online business world. And I think that's probably the number one thing that people tell me they struggle with too, because in my case, being a copywriter, that's something most people at a certain level of online business, they know what that is, right? But in the offline world, I've had several people think that I'm a lawyer and I practice copyright law, so that's always funny. And I've also had people just not understand what that meant at all. Like, they just had no idea. So there wasn't even a misconception. It was just like, huh? The thing that you need to do when you are communicating what you do is to first and foremost get yourself out there and give yourself plenty of opportunities to talk about what you do. You need to get out there, go to events, meet people, talk to your family, talk to your friends about what you do, and keep a running list in your head of the main questions people ask you. So if people are constantly asking you after you say you're a health coach, if they say, oh, so what kinds of health issues do you work with? That's something you might want to work into your explanation when you first say it. Okay. Now that you're out there and you're going to all these events and you're meeting all these people, the second thing that you need to do is focus your explanation of what you do on the result that you deliver and not on your job title. For me as a copywriter, that job title doesn't really mean anything for most people in the world. But when I tell people that I help online business owners like health coaches, business coaches, anyone who's starting a business using the internet to leverage the internet to change the world, I help them to communicate their offers to people so that those people will want to buy them. That usually makes sense to people because I'm telling people what I'm creating and not necessarily, I'm a copywriter, I write copy for the internet, I write ad copy. That's not going to really resonate with them, they're not going to get that. So the first thing you need to be doing is focusing on the result you deliver for the specific type of client that you deliver that result for. Okay, and then the third thing that you can do is to ask yourself, what misconceptions do people have about your industry, / how do you stand out from other people in your industry? So the last thing you want is for you to say what you do and them to be like, oh yeah, that's like so-and-so. You don't want to be compared to so-and-so, you want to stand alone. So you need to think about what is your USP, your unique selling proposition. So really niching yourself down is one way that you can do this, but you can also do this by addressing any misconceptions people might have about your industry. So what's a misconception people might have about your industry? Do you remember those memes that were going around Facebook for a while that was like, here's what my boss thinks I do, here's what my friends think I do, here's what my mom thinks I do, and it had all the pictures of like the funny things people think you're doing? This is what we're talking about here. Is any of those categories are misconceptions people have about your industry. So I actually encourage you to go find the meme that is closely related to what you do, and then you can address some of those things when you give your little spiel about what it is you do and you meet new people. The fourth step is to make sure that you are tweaking what you're saying, what you do is, to the person or the audience that you're talking to. When I used to do resume writing for job seekers, people were shocked that when I would tell them to tweak their resume for every job they applied for, people thought they could just have one resume and send it to everyone, and that's just not the case. So what you need to do, this is the same exact thing, this is you communicating yourself to someone else, that's marketing. Copywriting for entrepreneurs is the same thing as resumes for job seekers. Take your general spiel that you're going to give people about what you do, and then think about your audience. So for me, I have sort of two general ways I approach this. when I'm talking to people who don't know anything about online business and when I'm talking to people who do know a lot about online business. I have a different way of approaching those things. I make sure that I address the different misconceptions people might have about each. When people already know a lot about online business, I can give them a little bit more detail about what I do because they already get a lot of it. When people don't know a lot about online business, I have to be more general in the way that I approach telling people what I do. Now, if you're totally stuck, you can use the basic formula of telling people what you do. That starts out with, I blank as your verb, so the verb that you do, the action you do, like I help, I teach, I design, something like that. So I help, and then your next blank is the target market. So I help entrepreneurs, this is really general, but I help entrepreneurs. And then your next blank is the result that you help them achieve. So you need to have the verb is the action you're taking. The next thing you need to have is the market you're serving. And the last thing you need to have is the result you're providing. So that's a really good formula to get you started. Now don't get too stuck on the formula. I think you need to take the formula and then follow the 4 guidelines that I gave you in this video. What I want you to do now is to formulate a few examples of ways you could introduce who you are and what you do in a couple of sentences, and then try them on for practice. Try reciting them in front of the mirror or something like that. Maybe you can do it on video. And then I want you to get out there. I want you to start practicing and realize that this is going to be constantly a work in progress. You're going to be constantly tweaking what you're saying and making it even better. So don't get stuck on, oh, I have my elevator pitch and now I'm done. Always be improving it. I hope you really loved this video as much as I loved giving it to you, and I will see you next time.